Page 12, Allegro Moderato. On the pages prior to this, it's really a review of what you had in book 1, and it's really important that you know it all. I mean, this is something that when you learn this stuff, you just got to remember it forever and ever. It's, well, you can look forward to that, I suppose. But I just want to briefly cover those pages. So back on page 4, they give you notes and rests, and you have to draw the note of the rest in the little box. Basically you're copying what's printed there and putting it in the box, I guess. So just make sure you know the name of each note, what they're called, the whole note and quarter note and all, and the rest too. Know what they're called. As far as the beats go, I disagree with putting beats on it, because how many beats it gets depends on the time signature. And you're not always going to be counting quarter notes. You could be counting something else. Right now we've been counting quarter notes on everything, so yeah, if a quarter note gets a beat, then that's how many beats, that's what it would be. But just be aware that a quarter note's not always going to get a beat. On page 5, they do the time signatures of the ones we've had so far. 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, where the bottom number is a 4, that's the quarter note. That's why we're counting quarter notes. But then the top number tells us how far we have to count, or how many of those quarter note, equivalent to how many of those quarter notes in a measure. Well, okay. On page 6, they give you the grand staff and the treble and bass clefs, and yes, you need to understand what a treble and bass clef is, because they tell you the names of the notes on the staff. And just remember, a grand staff has that curly brace in front. When you see that, it's a grand staff. On page 7, dynamic marks. These are kind of hard to explain because they're relative. It depends on the situation in the room and the piano, and it's what is, depending on how much coffee I've had. What is very soft now versus very soft this afternoon could be different. I play by feel, so what do I feel very soft? The electronics I use for these videos wants to level out the volume, so even though I'm playing at different volume levels, it doesn't come out in the videos very well. But trust me, here in the room it sounds wonderful. At the bottom of the page, on page 7, there's a dynamic study. I'm not going to cover it in detail, you can go over it, but it gives you all of these different things. And even though each of these dynamic marks is relative, you don't know exactly where they are in relation to each other. So once you decide, for instance here it's soft at the beginning, whatever that is, what's soft to you? Not very soft, just soft. Well, according to that, then what is very soft? Well, 2 P's is not twice as soft. It doesn't work that way. 2 P's is just a little softer than 1 P. Because believe it or not, you can have 3 P's and 4 P's, and usually not in piano so much, but you can. So it doesn't double or halve just because you're adding a letter. It just goes up or down a little bit. So if soft is here, then very soft is extremely, really soft. It's how soft. Don't use the soft pedal for that. That's cheating. You got to learn to have the control in the fingers to do this. It takes time. Give yourself time. Then those sideways arrows, those crescendo and decrescendo or diminuendo things, they don't always tell you how much to get louder or softer. It's a feel thing. It's like in the study. You're starting out soft and you're going to get louder, but they don't tell you how loud to get. How much louder do you get? Well, it's a feel thing. You can experiment. Try one time going soft to loud. Back down, and then you got to go down to very soft, whatever that is. Then try it again, just maybe going up to sort of loud. Then try it again, maybe this time just go up to sort of soft, just go up a little bit. See, it can vary. It depends on the music and the situation, and you get to feel in it. You have to feel the dynamics. I mean, you can try forcing them when you're first trying to learn it, but ultimately to play well, you have to feel the dynamics. You have to feel it getting louder. And you don't worry about how much louder you're getting, it's just however you feel it. So they give you that study there, you can do all that. As far as the pedal goes, I totally disagree with that. I disagree with the way Faber uses pedal. Otherwise, the book's rather pretty good. So I would leave out pedal on that dynamic thing. On page 8, then they review the intervals. Well, I don't see a big problem there. I mean, you'll learn to recognize them in the music as you continue to play. And you can calculate interval. I've already covered that. You simply count up from the note you're on. The note you're on is always 1. We don't start with 0. So I can take any 2 notes and I can figure out the intervals simply by counting up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's a 13th. I cheat a little bit when they get really far apart because I know an octave, letter to letter, that's an interval of an 8. So rather than counting all the way up, I simply go up an octave. That's 8, and I start there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I don't want to count all that way. I'm going to take a shortcut. And in the music, you'll learn to recognize what they are too. As far as why you need to know it, they will come in handy a little later on. You know, it's like we got to learn the bits and pieces to the whole puzzle, and we'll gradually put everything together. So just be patient. Just know you need to know them, although you don't understand why right now. On page 10 is C major scale. I would prefer you use my scale video on C major. Learn the scale 1 octave up and down. Actually, once you get to this level, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and start learning the scale 2 octaves up and down. Just both hands together, 2 octaves up and down. It'll help you do the wrist and the accents and everything I explain in the scale video. Now in the middle of page 10, they cover the primary chords for C major. That's fine, the 1, 4, and the 5, 7. Those numbers are the same for any key. So once you know the scale, you know the notes in the scale, you know which notes to play, then you simply are using those notes for the chords. So the 1 chord starts on the first step of the scale, right? There's just 3 notes in C major. And then the 4 chord starts on the 4th step. So it's 1, 2, remember we start on 1, we don't start on 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you do a chord on that. That's the 4 chord in C major. Then the 5 chord starts on the 5th step, and they add the 7th. Remember the 7th is just adding another note. There's 4 notes in a 7. We usually don't use all 4 of them, you don't have to. You need the top and bottom, the C and the F, or the G and the F, but the others, it's either or neither, whatever the music needs. And that's the primary chords for C major. We don't want to move around a lot, type, so we use the inversions so we don't have to move around so much. So it's here, and then the 4 chord, rather than here, I put the C on the bottom, so it's here. That way I'm not moving around. And then for the 5, 7 chord, rather than here, I put the G on top, here. So it's here. So it's here. Except I usually leave this note out. So it's here. And that way the hand doesn't move around, I can still get the chords. Doesn't matter what the arrangement of the notes are, what's important are the notes themselves. The name of the notes have to be there. Then on page 11 they do the same thing with G major. Okay, fine, go do the G major scale. Either 1 octave up and down, if you already know it, then go 2 octaves up and down. And its primary chords. The G chord is the 1 chord. Now remember, G major has 1 sharp. If you knew the scale, you would just know that. It's an F sharp. So when we do the chords, we have to keep that in mind, because we got to have an F sharp, not an F natural. So a G chord, a 1 chord is here. Then the 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, here. Although we usually we keep the G on the bottom, so it's from here to here. And then the 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the chord is here. Remember the F sharp? It's in the key signature. Here. And we put the D on top, so it's here. Then we just leave out the A. So here, here, those are the primary chords for G major. They come in handy if you can know those, especially if you want to learn to improvise. You need to know them. You may not always play them in these arrangements, but at least you know what the chord is, so you can play it in whatever arrangement of chord notes you need. And that brings us up to Allegro Moderato. Hey, we are here. At the top of the page, on page 12, they talk about musical form. A binary, bi meaning two, as in bicycle, biplane, bi whatever you want. Two, always by two, right? So, and we start with the letters. A, and we call them sections. Section A, section B, section C, whatever, to help us identify and understand the forms. Because in order to really learn to play the music well and interpret the music well, you really need to understand how it's constructed. That is the form. It will come in handy, and I'll explain in more detail as we go through the book. Here, there's the examples they're showing is two sections. Well, that makes it binary form. An A section and a B section. And the idea is that they're different melodies. So the A section, and they label them for you. The A section is there at the top. You start out with A section. That's handy. So if you're trying to figure out what the form is, well, the A section's always at the beginning unless there's an intro. An introduction is basically a different section. It's not labeled A section, it's an introduction. I'll talk more about introductions when we get to one. So the melody is type thing, and then if you look on page 13, in the middle, there's a B section label for you. Well, that's a different melody. So, different melody. A, B, that's it. And there's other forms, so we'll cover them later. As part of looking the piece over, remember when I learn a new piece of music, I like to kind of look it all over first before I start doing anything, and looking at the form is one of the things I'm looking at. How many sections does it have, and does it repeat sections, and what's going on? Well, we see it's a 4/4 time. Okay. It's got one chart. We're in the key of G major. Okay. It's got two sections, an A and a B section. It's got repeat signs, so we're repeating both sections. And there's a first and second ending at the bottom of the second section, so we gotta do those two. Lots of whole notes, half notes, eighth notes, one and two and, oh goody. And once I get an idea of that, then I'm going to take it one hand at a time and get the notes and the fingering and the rhythm. And I just like to focus in. I got it. My brain doesn't allow me to do it all at once. It has to be really easy music before I can do it all at once. So I just do it one thing at a time and I build it. So here, half note, and here we're starting. That's 1 and 2 and 3. And this is just a G major scale. Remember the F sharp's in the key signature. Well, we're in the key of G, so that makes sense. 3 and 4 and 1, so forth. Let's jump over to section B. Measure 9. You remember the numbers at the beginning of each line in a box? Those are measure numbers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth. Left hand, well, it's a 1 chord. 1 and then a 5/7 chord. 2, and again, just lower the whole hand down and try and get the notes down at the same time. I'm not very good at that, but you try. It takes time, lots of time. And that's a quarter note lifted up on beat 2. And the second line is just a whole note there, so the left hand's not doing a lot. Let's look at section B. Measure 9. Eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And again, I'm just transferring weight from note to note. I'm sort of turning here. Going on is 1 and again, even with the notes next to each other, I can still do that. It's actually a very small motion, but I want you to see it, so I tend to move it more. But that's the idea. Put the hands together once they and putting the hands together is generally a whole new adventure. I find that this still doesn't work. I got to go back and work one hand at a time again. But try and get the hands together as best you can. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. There, when I play that B, the left hand comes up because that's beat 2. 1 and and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So forth. Section B. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Once you can get the note or the hands at the same time playing, you get rid of any hesitations you may have. And then we can go back and add the articulation. That's the slurs and the staccatos and the accents and all that stuff. Well, in the beginning, this is all connected. It's all slurred. It's all legato connected. The left hand, you can't connect chords like this. So you do the best you can. You have to lift up and move, but don't make it a long silence. Just lift up and move. So together, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All connected until measure 4, they're staccatos. So it's. So to start on measure 3, we're up here. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. Short staccatos, I'm just hinging at the wrist. And I'm on the key, pushing down and bouncing off each time. Don't start above it and try and hit it. Ugh. Do that some more. I'll measure 8. Your hits a staccato. And then, and that's not staccato. You hold that out a full count. You lift up on beat 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then for section B, now you got staccatos because you're going to connect the left hand at the same time. It's hard to do. It's hard for me to do that. I want to do the same thing in both hands all the time. So I have to work on this. Just make sure I lift up, but not here. And after these half notes, I'm lifting up to. I'm separating them. I'm not separating. Lift up. Now once you can get the articulation in okay, then we go back and add the dynamics. Moderately soft at the beginning, and that's to the melody. Everything else is background. Whatever you think moderately sort of soft is, the left hand needs to be very soft. Crescendo, go up to about a moderately loud here. You're not going to crescendo a lot. And then soft. The left hand is very soft. We want to hear. Now up a little bit to moderately soft again, like you were at the beginning. And you do that some more. Now section B, now we're moderate. It has an MF-P. You don't need the on repeat. They're just being nice to you. MF-P. So the first time we play this, it's going to be moderately loud in the right hand. The left hand still needs to be soft. And again, the left hand, I'm connecting all these notes together. All together, all connected. It's the right hand gets the staccatos and stuff. And so section B, the first time it's moderately loud, then when you repeat it, then you play it softly. It's like an echo. And then the last measure, there's a retardando there. You slow down just a little bit. And again, that last half note at the bottom there, I want to hear the G. The chord has to be very soft. Because you have a decrescendo to come down, and you were soft to begin with. So you're soft, very soft. That means the left hand is super soft. You know, you're practically just blowing on the keys. Then once you got a handle on that, we add the speed. Well, Allegro Moderato, it's the title of the piece. Moderately fast. It's on the fast side of the middle. It's sort of fast. Whatever. Again, it's a range. It has to be your sort of fast, not mine. So it's the overall feel of the piece, not how fast the beat goes. The beat goes however fast it has to go to support the feel of the piece. So it's, I don't know, to me, moderately fast is 1 and 2 and. you feel it. Don't copy me, please. You got to make it yours. Now, the idea is to get comfortable enough with the music where you can just, you're not thinking about notes and rhythms, you're just listening to the melody. And then you start feeling the dynamics and you feel the speed and you make it music. However, I would like to play this with you very, very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. Not going to do the dynamics. We are going to do the repeats, so I'll give us 4 counts, so let's just play it together slowly. 1 and 2 and ready and go, and 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. And 2 and. And repeat, and 2 and. And 2 and. Rest. Repeat. Now there's a duet at the bottom of page 12. I'd like to play that part, and you play what you just played. We're going to go a little faster, not much, but a little faster. I'll give us 4 counts, and let's try it. Now to do this, make it work, I need you to go up an octave on the keyboard. We've been doing this from book 1. You simply pretend middle C goes up an octave, and it's here. And so instead of here, you're here. Play it all up there. And I can do the duet parts using these notes down here. So it would be in each of them now. 1, 2, ready and go, and.